I used to go around asking men for advice about getting married, and now that I'm 4 years in, I realize that a lot of these men didn't like their wives. After I posted that video, this comment read, "Can you talk more about liking your wife?" So many men seem to generally dislike and seem to be annoyed by women. They love but don't like. What I've both seen and learned as I've grown is that men will marry women who serve them even if they don't like them. That's how patriarchy conditions them. For example, if you ask a cis man what he likes about his partner, he'll soon begin listing the ways in which she serves him. You know what I mean? Like, I think society conditions men to not like women. Like, you love them, you feel a sense of duty towards them, you get one and you take care of them because that's what men do, we're taught. And you're hearing your whole life from church, the men in your life, the media, that women talk too much, they don't listen, they're disagreeable, they're emotional. Cis men tend to like other men in non-romantic ways. They like being around their guys and spending time with them, and sometimes these men talk to each other about how much they don't like their wives. But men will marry women who serve them, who are submissive and obedient and who know their place. Because as I've said, in the eyes of patriarchy, there can be no relationship without control. All liking someone is feeling attraction towards them or taking pleasure in them, delighting in them. Like, I like my wife, I like talking to her and being around her. Even if we're not doing stuff together, I feel better knowing that we're occupying the same space. I like her laugh and the way she speaks. Sometimes I just like watching her exist. Something about it fills me up, inspires me, reminds me. Like, she's my person, my favorite person. Seeing her makes me feel happy and safe. Yes, we're people that argue. Sometimes we annoy each other. But because we like each other, it doesn't take long for either of us to begin a resolution. Because who wants to not be talking to someone they actually like for the sake of pride?
I couldn't have articulated this better myself. Patriarchy conditions men to view women this way. So he was saying that the traits men are told to look for: submissiveness, quietness, someone who's going to sacrifice and serve them. In a lot of the churches that I went to, I would often hear people say, as long as she is a Christian and has these qualities of submissiveness and quietness, that she will be a good wife. Forget the idea of compatibility or cultivating friendship. Forget the idea of finding your soulmate or actually liking each other. And God forbid you actually want to feel something for this person, right? Feelings aren't that important. Forget this idea of falling in love, because love is only a choice and not a feeling, they say. If you want to talk about scripture, think of the Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon does a great job of showing what desire looks like. Strong feelings, strong attraction, and aching to be with the one you love. And not just for the physical, but for the emotional connection. That kind of soulmate friendship that we long for as human beings. A wife isn't just a servant. She is supposed to be your second half. That oneness in many ways, not just the physical. I don't know about you, but I have zero interest in the kind of husband that does his duty out of love for God and feels nothing for me. What kind of love is that? Oh, he loves me. He goes to work, makes money, provides for me, and leads me so that I don't have to think for myself. And I love him by obeying him and submitting to him and respecting his authority over me. Is that love? Is that really God's design for marriage? Is it really that shallow? This idea of roles. Oh, a lot of people think, well, that's not shallow. Patriarchy, including soft complementarianism, which it sounds like this man probably comes from, this kind of culture creates a toxic environment. It is pure legalism and living out a set of man-made rules that are supposed to fulfill our needs and bring us joy in marriage. For those of us who are finding joy, it's probably because we have more in common with this guy right here, because of a genuine love that is heartfelt and not just a duty to God. Churches create so many problems trying to protect singles. So first off, they damage people because they teach stuff like this, the patriarchal, complementarian stuff. Two, they separate men and women so they don't get to form healthy relationships. If you're raised in the church, and ever since you were a child, let's say you're a male in this situation, say you're a little boy, and your whole life in church, you're told that you can't have friendships with girls. You can't have a platonic friendship with a woman. That any friendship you have with a woman is an opportunity for temptation and will probably lead to something sexual. What does that teach us about women? That leads into number 3. Number 3 is they teach that it is impossible for men and women to be friends without there being sexual temptation. 4, they over-exaggerate the seductiveness of females and the inability for men to control their eyes, their thoughts, and their sexual impulses. This often results in women being blamed for men's actions and for what they're wearing. 5, they teach men and women that masturbation is a sin, which gives them zero outlet to deal with their passions, so that they are hard-pressed to either marry quickly or fall into some kind of sinful habit like pornography. They are often rushed into a marriage just so that they can satisfy those physical desires. This can lead people to marry too young, often with little or no experience with dating or how to have a healthy marriage besides fulfilling their assigned roles as the church has taught them. These are just some of the problems. The Bible tells us that Christians will be known by their love for each other. But most of these churches don't understand what love even is. It is so much more than a set of rules to follow and just obeying God. As if someone doing this is going to create some kind of magical marriage. Often it doesn't. Often it creates toxic, abusive, or empty marriages. Most Christian men raised with these kinds of ideas don't like their wives. And I would argue that the love they have isn't really love either. Or at minimum, it's not the kind of love anyone really longs for. I'm married to an amazing man who actually truly loves me. And I mean loves me, for who I am as a person. Not just because I'm a Christian, not just because I have the traits of a godly woman. Yes, that's important. But he loves my personality, my heart, my playfulness. He loves how creative and nerdy and goofy I am. He loves that I'm passionate and want to help people. He supports my dreams and encourages me to dream big. He is there for me. He is a fan of me and everything that I stand for. And it's not out of duty, it's out of love. And I admire him for all his beautiful, amazing traits that make him who he is. He's kind, caring, compassionate, and thoughtful. He's smart. He's discerning. He has this warmth in his countenance that exudes a kind of peace that I feel safe in. I can trust him. I can rely on him. And I adore him for all the awesomeness that is him. We are best friends. We are soulmates, partners, madly in love, devoted to each other. There's caring, patience, desire, passion, a whole range of beautiful emotions and feelings and desires. We both get joy of just being around each other and doing things for each other. It's not conditional, and we reciprocate because we want to. We aren't forced into roles. We aren't forced out of duty. We are free to love. It's in freedom that love thrives. I'm not saying that there are never things that are difficult, but I'm telling you from experience that the Song of Songs kind of love, romance, and friendship, that is real. It's not a fantasy. And you should not settle. Our childhood dreams of romance were almost destroyed by bad relationships and people that made us think that our hopes were mere fairy tales. Don't settle for lies. Get yourself out of these churches that are more like cults. It's a red flag when Christian husbands like their wives less than the typical husbands outside of churches, than unbelieving husbands, okay? Our relationships in the church should look more loving than those outside of the church. Let us question what we think makes successful, loving relationships. Because, like this man just shared with us, that has not been his experience in the church. These actions of these men are not loving actions. To be gossiping and bashing and complaining about their wives constantly to other men. Like, that is wrong. That is a red flag. And if you're not seeing marriages where there is a warmth of emotion, where there is a genuine love, if it's all just about, oh, she does her role and I do my role, is that really love? Is that really? Think about love. Think about the way that God views us. God made us all beautiful and unique and different. And He loves everything about us that makes us us. Now, sure, we are sinful, but we are still wonderfully and beautifully made in the image of God. If only we could learn to see how God loves us. If we don't have an accurate view of love, we can never succeed in anything. And we might need to redefine what love actually is.